Live from the virtual New Hampshire Motor Speedway, welcome, iRacing fans, to the broadcast of the East Coast Thunder eSports Tour Modifieds, live on Apex Racing TV. I'm your host, Joshua Lee. Joining me in the commentary booth is Brian Delp with Marco Barbanera downstairs producing tonight's show. Brian, these NASCAR Modifieds have stood the test of time, with the real-life NASCAR Modified Series being around since the beginning of the sport, and now these racers will take them to battle here on the iRacing Sim. What challenges will these drivers face over the course of not only our 80-lap feature race tonight, but also each of our 6-lap heat races?
Yeah, the modifieds are something that are picking up a lot of steam on iRacing, especially now that they have a fixed series along with the open series of tradition. These cars are a lot of fun to drive. They generally have a lot of grip, depending on what track you're at and where you're at on that track. Another big thing that with these cars is you see that motor sticking up there. It does block some of the view of these drivers, which can be a struggle if you're not used to this car and being able to understand where you have your car placed. I was out running a few laps before this, and if you are on that bottom line, you can get loose also. So these are all things that guys are going to have to struggle with tonight.
And you mentioned that engine, a 364 cubic inch engine producing 612 horsepower. And something especially different about racing here at New Hampshire, these cars have restrictor plates on them, much like their larger counterparts in the NASCAR Cup Series, Xfinity Series, and Gander Outdoor and RV Truck Series, where they have restrictor plates on at Daytona and Talladega. Here they have them on at New Hampshire, and that is definitely going to make the racing a little bit more interesting. This is going to be an interesting race, of course, the first of a 10-round series here in the East Coast Thunder eSports, with these NASCAR Tour modified vehicles, and practice currently going on. 8 minutes left of practice until we head into qualifying. We'll have 5 minutes of qualifying to set up our heat races, with 4 drivers out of every heat race making it into our 80-lap feature race to end out tonight. And currently Kenny Zeems holds that top spot in practice. You see that number 15 car making laps around, currently with the fastest time of the session, with that set time being a 31.18 seconds. And the 15 making laps still in practice. Every lap of practice crucial for each of these drivers to have a good race here tonight, because in these heats they're going to need to be the top 4. Brian, looking at each of these drivers in practice, who is catching your eye first of being a possible threat to win tonight's race?
Well, I definitely got to put some money down on Kenny Zeems. If you remember, we did the New York Thunder eSports series where they ran multiple different cars at Phoenix, and a lot of these guys were in that series also. It's put on by William Kruska, who is also putting on the East Coast Thunder eSports modified tour series. And these a lot of these guys have run with one another in that series, like I talked about before. And Kenny Zeems was the front runner in that series. Another big name is the Catalanos. Normally you see Trevor running a lot of fast laps. They're running 7th and 8th right now with Tyler Catalano and Trevor Catalano. And so you never know exactly who's going to be able to pull it out. This track is much different than we've seen them running before, and it's much different than we'll see them running for the rest of the series.
Well, right now in this series, we have a couple of tracks down on the schedule right now. Next week, July 9th, we'll be at New Smyrna Beach Speedway down in Florida. Then we'll be heading a little bit north on July 16th to the Myrtle Beach Speedway, with the Southern National Speedway taking place on July 23rd. And July 30th, we will be at the Oxford Speedway. Those are the next 4 races, and tonight, of course, we're here at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway, of course, virtually here on iRacing.com. And more practice continuing here. 5.5 minutes remaining in this session. You're taking a look at Chad Garlisi Jr. in the number 97, currently 17th fastest on the speed charts with a 31.63 second time. And he just set that fastest time the last time he crossed that start-finish line.
Yeah, these guys are typically pretty close to each other in terms of times. They're all in the 31s, everyone who has laid down a lap so far. Really, it's only 7/10 from the first place of Kenny Zeems down to 25th of Colin Johnston are the only people to put in time so far. So it's a very close field right now. Really, anything could happen here. It's going to come down to just qualifying and who can really put down that lap in those 4 laps that you have and not make a mistake. It's going to be a lot of fun to see this all play out.
That heat racing is going to add just another layer of action and anticipation into this race because only the top 4 will make it through each of those heat races. So it is going to be especially crucial that these drivers can run up front and qualify up front because they might have a better chance of getting out of their heat race. So 26 drivers are signed up, and we just got word from William Kruska, the race director, that 2 drivers will be going home. Everybody else will make it through. We'll have 4 advancees from each heat. 24 total will advance, with 2 going home. So that is just going to add another layer of pressure for each of these drivers to lay down a fast time here in practice and then fast time in qualifying and finish high up in their heat and try and grab the win, or top 4 at least in their heat, and make their way into the future race. Taking a look at Austin McCurdy, currently running on the track. He's going to pull down to the apron, making another quick qualifying run. His best time, a 31.288. Now looking at Russell Peets with a time of a 31.378, his best out on the speed chart. Eddie McCarthy with a 31.236, currently sitting in second. You can see him getting a little loose coming off of turn number 4, just trying to dial in that setup. 3 minutes left here in practice. That 22 car diving down into turn 1. You can see not running very close to the yellow line. Brian, you talked a little bit about how the cars get loose down there. Is there a specific reason for that? Just kind of how this track is made?
Yeah, so the track has progressive banking as it goes along. When you get down on that part right by the yellow line, it's basically flat. And I actually saw a couple times people were making passes on the apron here, which is a very hard thing to do, but it can be done in this car if you know how to do it. Most of the time you'll see people in that second groove or higher, specifically because of that progressive banking. It just helps the car be a little bit more stable. If you go down too low, like I said, you can upset the car if it's on 2 different sizes of banking because you'll just not have that traction that you need. So these guys are typically going to run higher, which is going to make for some great racing because to make a pass, then you're going to have to run even higher. So we might actually see some guys maybe end up running up by that wall by the end of things.
A lot of drivers running that middle lane. You can see almost 5 distinct lanes here at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. A lot of guys right in the middle of that racing groove. But in order to win this race and to make passes, you're going to need to be dominant on the top, middle, and bottom to try and get past all of the opponents and get that checkered flag at the end of our heat races and our feature race here tonight. You're on board with Jason Hand, a 31.668, his best time of the night, currently sitting in 19th on the speed charts as he comes across the line. Laying down, not going to lay down a faster time, but Kenny Zeems, your current fastest on the speed charts. And Jason Hand with a 32.124 last time by, and you can see getting loose off of turn number 2. This is an open setup race. Everybody can dial in their setups as much as they can. You see diving into turn number 3, letting off very late, heading into the corner. Brian, is there any specific reason for that, or possibly just his racing style?
It really depends. You can really drive this track a few different ways. Usually you see a lot of guys taking it the same exact attack, but in cars like this, you'll see the modifieds, the super late models. You have a little bit more variant in driving sometimes and how people do things. Some people will drive it really, really loose. Others like it tight. And depending on like what your setup is and how you're driving, that can really change a lot of things about this track.
William Kruska, your race director, going for a little bit of a wild ride there down the front straightaway as we have 20 seconds remaining here in practice. Last minute times getting thrown into the mix before we head into qualifying. Taking a look at Patrick Hoosier looking back on Russell Peets, the 191 machine. Patrick Hoosier putting down a 31.401 for his fastest time of this session. And the clock will expire. Checkered flag out on practice. It is time to see where everybody will sit here in qualifying for the East Coast Thunder eSports at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. You're watching Apex Racing TV, and these NASCAR Tour Modifieds are ready to go qualifying as the drivers will take to the track 4 laps to get it done here at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. And we have cars getting onto the track right now. You're taking a look at that 54 of Trevor Catalano running the apron until he is able to get back up on the track. There's that blue cone signaling that you can exit onto the racetrack. Now we got the 64 of Tyler Catalano. As everybody going to get their times underway. We'll see who's able to get the pole in 4 laps.
The biggest thing here is just not making a mistake. You have 4 laps. We do have heats where you can try to make up some of that time, but if you start too far back in the heats, the heats are only 6 laps, so you don't have a ton of time to make up those positions. So you really, really want to be able to start up front, be able to hold on to your spot, hopefully, and be in control of your own destiny.
And a reminder that if you hit that wall and get a 0x, your time will be disallowed by the sim. So everybody needs to make sure they're keeping it off of the wall. First time's coming in. Trevor Colorado, 54 to the top of the board to begin qualifying. 1.36 is the time. He currently sits up at the top of the leaderboard, but then Trevor Catalano still up at the top of the leaderboard with Chris Downing sitting in 3rd. You're taking a look at him coming off of turn number 4, trying to lay down a faster time. Bobby Sant Jr. now going to take it to the top of the leader charts with a 31.31, and Trevor Catalano going to tie that time. Very close times up at the top of the leaderboard. Who is going to be faster and get the pole heading into our heat races? Bobby Sant Jr. pulls it off the racetrack. 31.31 is his time. He sits up at the top of the leaderboard right now. As everybody getting in their last times, Kenny Zeems back to the top of the charts. He is picking up right where he left off, coming off of practice with a 31.23. Not quite as fast as practice, but still a blazing fast time. He sits up at the top of the leaderboards. Ken Zeems going to come across the line with a 31.39 as his fastest time. Now taking a look at Chris Downing. He laid down a 31.34 for his fastest time. And he'll bring it across the line. 31.419 for William Kruska. That'll put him in 8th place. Austin McCurdy with a 31.228. Jason Hand going to come across the line. Needs to beat his 31.74. Doesn't look like he will.
One thing I have noticed is that there is a very large gap here in iRating. Now, iRating is not everything, but it gives you kind of a feeling to where these guys are. And we have guys down in the 200s, and then we have guys all the way up in the 5,000s on iRating. So it's a very large gap, but the times are not. All but 2 people are in the 31s in terms of times right now. And that is just absolutely amazing to see. You could lay a blanket over the times that are happening.
Taking a look at Bobby Sant Jr. going out for a couple more laps here in qualifying. 31.31 is his fastest time. You're taking a look at the 31 machine of Jody Renard. Trying to get a little too much there. Going around, coming out of the back straightaway. Now looking at the 22 of Eddie McCarthy. Currently has a fastest time of a 31.28. Trying to improve on that out on the racetrack. And you can see his time down there scrolling across the bottom of your screen. He's going to come across the line trying to beat that 31.228. He's not going to do it. 32.3 is the time. 31.249 is the time for Eddie McCarthy. He will beat that time, 31.25. Now lands him in the second spot on the speed charts. As a 7 machine of Patrick Hosier going to jump up to 11th with a 31.45. But still up at the top of the leaderboard is Kenny Zeems, 31.23 seconds. And the top 8 in qualifying, just getting word from our race director, automatically are moving on to the feature. So the top 8 will automatically move on to the feature. That is Ken Zeems. As Ken Zeems, Eddie McCarthy, Sant, Catalano, Downing, Kruzka, McCurdy, and Catalano. So both of the Catalanos make it into the top 8. They're automatically qualifying for the feature race. And we are getting ready for heat number 1 here on the racetrack for advance to the feature. And taking a look at that starting grid, Ken Zeems on the pole, Patrick Hosier in second, Don Adam Seeks in third, Cullen Johnston in fourth, James Gerald in fifth, Jason Hand in sixth, Hunter Izaik in seventh, Shane Posey in eighth, and Steven Barber will round out the top 9 here in heat number 1. As we are getting ready to go racing, just waiting for everybody to get onto the grid. And this will be the first racing action we're seeing down on the track tonight. Only 6 laps, Brian. They gotta get a lot in a short amount of time.
Yeah, it's going to be very hard for these guys in the back to be able to make up that time. The guys that are in those transfer spots are just going to want to hold it. You can try to gain those spots here if you'd like, but it's going to be very difficult because you don't want to make a mistake, because any little mistake at this point could send you home. So we're going to have to see what they do here and how careful they end up driving, but you don't want to be that person that throws away your race trying to gain a position when you're already in a transfer spot.
And those drivers already automatically in a transfer spot tonight is the 90 of Ken Zeems, the 7 of Patrick Hosier, the 21 of Don Adam Seeks, and the 84 of Cullen Johnston. Your top 4 starting here. So 5 drivers need to make their way up into that top 4 for a transfer spot. We're going to see the first look at how each of these drivers will race against each other and in traffic in these NASCAR Tour Modifieds. 9 of them currently behind the iRacing.com Ford Mustang pace car, ready to be let loose here at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. That iRacing.com pace car going to find the safety of pit road as the 90 of Ken Zeems gets going. Green, green, green. We're underway for heat number 1 here in New Hampshire.
Yeah, that was a great start there from Ken Zeems. He stacked the field up just enough to be able to then fire off and clear the field, and he's out front just looking good, looking ahead of him, not really having to worry about anyone behind him at the moment.
A little bit of a battle for that transfer spot. That is Dom Adam Seeks getting a little bit ahead of Cullen Johnston. Still the transfer spots remaining completely the same. James Gerald now trying to pass Cullen Johnston, who is on that bubble for the transfer spot as they come onto the front straightaway. Now 5 laps to go going into turn number 1. And this top 4 seems to be pulling away, but Ken Zeems is pulling away from the 3 behind him as Ken Zeems is running away with this as they come down the back straightaway.
Yeah, the guys out front, I think, might be a little bit content to run where they are. You don't really want to, like I said, make that mistake, and you don't want to end someone else's race. When you're sitting in those transfer spots, you're looking back, you have a lot of space to the guys behind you to possibly lose a transfer spot. So right now, I think it's more advantageous to guys to just really ride right now without any pressure of losing that transfer spot.
A lot of battling going on further back, but it's not for that transfer spot. You can see a huge gap in space in between that 84 of Cullen Johnston and James Gerald. Almost a second gap between these two. So those transfer spots are running away from the back 5. James Gerald just can do nothing but run his own race and watch Cullen Johnston and the rest pull away from them. We might have a little bit of a battle here for second between the 21 of Don Adam Zeeks and the 7 of Patrick Hosier. Let's see if the 21 can make a move down the back straightaway. We might have a passing opportunity heading into turn 3.
Yeah, right now it seems like he's got some momentum every once in a while in the middle of the turn, but then just loses it on exit a little bit. So I'm not sure if we'll see a pass if that continues. I think he's more of just playing it safe right now, just from the looks of it.
It is possible his car might just be rotating a little bit better on entry than the 7. That is certainly what it looks like, because he closes that gap on entry, but then you can see on exit, it widens a little bit. But as I say that time, a huge run up turn number 2 for Adam Zeeks. And is he going to look to the inside? No, but second, third, and fourth are all right nose to tail, as the 90 of Ken Zeem's going to come onto the front straight away, white flag in hand. One final lap here in heat number 1. The 21 going to look to the inside, not going to make the move heading into 1.
Yeah, and you saw that actually checked up Johnston there also, because the 21 had to get out of it. So that wasn't the most advantageous move right there, but it is the final lap. There is no pressure from behind. He could take that chance to possibly get that position and start higher up in the feature, but it looks like we do have our guys who are going to make it to the feature.
And Ken Zeem's going to come across the start-finish line. He will make it into the feature, and he'll start on the pole with Patrick Hosier, Don Adam Seeks, and Cullen Johnston, rounding out your transfer spots with James Gerald, Shane Posey, Hunter Zeke, Jason Hand, and Stephen Barber. Going to be on the chopping block as we take a look at the next heat of races getting ready. This is heat number 2 of the evening, with Russell Peets on the pole. Right behind him will be Casey Hatch, Brent Allen in 3rd, Matthew Lambert in 4th, Jody Reinhardt in 5th, Chad Garlisi Jr. in 6th, Christopher Apgar in 7th, Ignacio Adams in 8th, with Dave Bishonar rounding out your field. And that is the next 9 cars that'll take to the track, with Russell Peets, Casey Hatch, Brent Allen, and Matthew Lambert in the automatic transfer spots, with everybody else going to be trying to get into our feature here tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be, again, like we saw last time, the leader's just going to try and fire off here and get clear and just run away with this thing. And it might be more of what we saw, where the guys that are in that transfer spot are just okay with running in that transfer position and not really pushing the issue.
Well, the field back behind the iRacing.com pace car. That Ford Mustang will make it to the safety of pit road here in just a minute, as Russell Peets looking for that green light. He'll start on the pole with Casey Hatch right beside him. And we'll see, usually, if the Daytona duels in February have any indication, if the first heat is a little boring, the second heat is going to be even better. Here we go. Green flag is out here at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. We're back underway in heat number 2. 6 laps on the targets, as pulling away immediately is Russell Peets and Casey Hatch. We already have a battle for the transfer spot between the 32 and the 97. The 97 getting into the wall, as moving to the inside is going to be the 31 of Jody Reinhardt. And as long as they're side by side, the top 4 are going to continue to pull away. But the 31 looking for that 4th spot, trying to get into the feature.
Yeah, and we hear contact even further back than that. These guys are battling it out. They want to get into the transfer spot. Oh, and we see a car get turned there. That's the 18 of Adames there that got turned around.
Tough break for the 18. Now definitely out of this transfer spot battle. Let's take a look at that replay. Possibly a little bit of contact with that 93 machine. Sorry, the 99 machine, and yes, the 99 coming right up into the 18. An unfortunate break for Ignacio Adames. He is going to finish P number 9 here in this heat, as we got a battle possibly shaping up for the lead here. So we're halfway done with the heat. Russell Peets in the 191 with the lead. Here comes Casey Hatch in that 14, sitting in second. Going to look for the lead, but he's not going to find it. You're looking on board now. Everybody just kind of keeping their distance between each other. Nobody really making any passes on anybody in the battle for that transfer spot, weakening ever so slightly as Jody Reinhardt falls back away from Brent Allen in the 23, who holds that final transfer spot. We'll see if he's able to catch him and make a pass, but right now, the top 4 remaining almost exactly the same as they were when we went green. That 48 car sitting in 3rd. Under pressure from that 32, but the 32 has not made a pass yet, hasn't even tried to make a pass yet on that 48 machine. As we have 2 laps remaining here in this heat, the 32 falling back, but he might have some battle for the transfer spot. Here comes the 31 of Jody Reinhardt, trying to get past the 23 as the 48 looks for 2nd, not gonna find it. The 14 now on the back bumper, the 141, the top 4, you can throw a blanket over him right now, and the 23 wants to join that party, and with the white flag is at the 191 trying to get the lead, but the 14 not able to find it. He's going to get to that back bumper, coming on the back straightaway for the final time. The 14 gets loose, the 14 into the grass. He is going to lose the transfer spots to the 31 of Jody Reinhardt. Now Reinhardt in that transfer spot, and Casey Hatch in the 14 gonna lose out on the feature on the final lap as Russell Peets takes the win. Matthew Lambert, Brett Allen, and Jody Reinhardt, your top 4.
Yeah, and that's just where we saw that little slip up he was pushing it for all he had and just happened to get loose off of turn 2 and ended up down towards the grass, and it just ended up costing him big at the finale there, that heat.
Small 3-minute warm-up now coming up for each of these drivers getting ready to go, as we do have 24 drivers in this feature. Now those top 4 were just to guarantee their spot in the feature, but we have 24 drivers in this, so everybody else getting in on provisionals. The only 2 that are going to lose out are Stephen Barber and Dave Bishiner are the 2 that will not be moving on to the feature. Everybody else is in the feature, but it was definitely nerve-wracking for those drivers that did not make it into those transfer spots, Brian, because they didn't know if they were going to make it until just a couple minutes ago.
Yeah, and that's definitely a nerve-wracking feeling when things just aren't in your control. It just makes things so much harder because you gave it your all, and then it basically just comes up to you don't know what's going to happen. But luckily, we know who has made it. The guys who have made it are probably ecstatic that they have, and now they have 80 laps to make up as many positions as they can and try to go for that win.
Like we said, a small warm-up here before the feature race kicks off. Minute 30 remaining in this feature race. In this warm-up before the feature race is able to kick off. The Catalano is currently on top, Tyler and Trevor in the 64 and the 54, with Chris Downing currently sitting in 3rd. Last-minute changes to the car and last-minute warm-up for each of these drivers. Brian, is this really giving them a lot of help, this short 3-minute session before the feature race kicks off? Can they learn anything more?
It's really to kind of reset mentally before the feature. Most of the time the session, you don't really learn too much from it, but what you do get is that mental refresh. You just had a intense battle where you were just fighting out with these other guys to try to make that transfer position. But now you get to take a breath. You've got 3 minutes until the feature starts. You get to relax, breathe, reset your mind, and get ready to go at it for 80 laps.
Well, this warm-up is going to conclude here in about 15 seconds, and we are getting ready to go racing here at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway for an 80-lap feature race. We've only had 6-lap heats to begin the night. Now they have to go from short bursts of green flag runs in the heats to possibly long green flag runs and a couple cautions, hopefully, here at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. And you see that track temperature, 127 degrees, a hot and slick track temp here at this mile-long oval. And it's time to go racing. Taking a look at your starting grid here tonight. Kenny Zeems will start on the pole with Eddie McCarthy in second, Bobby Sant Jr. in third, Trevor Catalano in fourth, Chris Downing in fifth, William Kruska in sixth, Austin McCurdy in seventh, Tyler Catalano in eighth, Ken Zeems in ninth, and Russell Peets will round out your top 10.
And in 11th, we have Patrick Hosier. 12th is Matthew Lambert. 13th is Don Adam Sizik. 14th is Brent Allen. 15th, Cullen Johnston. 16th is Jody Reinard. 17th, James Gerald. 18th, Casey Hatch. 19th is Shane Posey. And 20th is Chad Garlisi Jr.
Hunter Zayek will be starting in 21st, Christopher Opgar in 22nd, Jason Hand in 23rd, and Ignacio Adames will start in 24th. With two drivers going home, they've already exited the sim. They are saying goodbye here in New Hampshire, as now 24 cars will line up behind the pace car, getting ready to go back to racing. Each of these drivers have raced in the heats. They're now getting ready to go racing for not 6 laps, but 80 around the New Hampshire Motor Speedway, warming up their tires, getting ready to be let loose here at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway, down the back straightaway, 2 by 2, 12 rows deep. We saw a lot of exciting action in the heats, a lot of drivers holding back a little bit, not making a lot of passes, but now it's 80 laps of all you can give to try and get the win. This is the season opener of the East Coast Thunder eSports Tour Modified Series. And that Ford Mustang iRacing pace car will go into the safety of pit road. The 15 at Kenny Zeems is off and away. Green, green, green. We're underway in the feature.
Yeah, and that was a great start there by Kenny Zeems. We saw it happen with Ken Zeems also, where you just lay back a little bit and get that big fire off there. And these guys are side by side throughout the field. They are not making it easy here on this first lap, so they are pushing it as hard as they can.
2 by 2 most of the way back here at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. A good start as they'll complete lap number 1. Kenny Zeems holding on to that top spot and pulling away just like he did back in heat number 1 with Trevor Catalano in second, Eddie McCarthy in third. There's a couple more battles happening further back. Right now you're on board with Eddie McCarthy looking for second from the 54 of Trevor Catalano. Will we go for a passing opportunity down here in turn 3? No, he's going to run his middle line, but you can see him almost catching that 54 in the middle of the corner. Possibly he might try a pass here soon, but right now he's going to sit tucked back in third place as everybody's getting a single file now, seeing what their cars have and how they can race as we're on lap number 3 of 80, a long feature race, especially with these Tour Modifieds.
Yeah, it kind of surprised me a little bit how hard they were racing on the first lap. I figured they might want to settle things in, but you can make up so many positions on that first lap, especially on oval racing. And a lot of times here, it's hard over a long run to really pick up that time. Other than saving tires is one of the biggest things you can do to maybe make up positions as time goes along. But we see these guys are pushing hard, and they are not making it easy on one another.
The 54 under a little bit of a battle from that 131 of Bobby Sant Jr. He looked to the high side. First time we saw a pass try and go high here, but the 90 of Ken Zeems as that 191 of Russell Peets to his inside. Not going to be able to complete that pass, the 90, using that outside line to his advantage, as now the 48 will be on the outside of the 191. This is definitely telling of what the dominant line is going to be here tonight, because that 191 not doing that well on the inside line. It seems like that outside line has a little bit of an advantage tonight, Brian.
Yeah, the biggest thing is you get the run off on exit on the outside, and you see that in NASCAR and other places also, where that high line, you just get that really big run off because you can get in the gas a little bit sooner, it seems like. So while the inside is normally the fastest route, it's not so much here at New Hampshire.
Everybody's single file currently now. A couple cars dipping down to the inside here on the back straightaway. As this battle for second is pretty much the same as when we last saw it. With the 54 just having that 22 continuously putting pressure on his back bumper. With the 6 of Eddie with the 6 of William Kruzga just laying back and watching this battle happen. Seems like the 22 of Eddie McCarthy kind of content with third place for now. As that 15 of Kenny Zeems continues to lead here on lap number 7. You're on board once again with Eddie McCarthy coming down the back straightaway. And you can see him reaching about a max speed of 136 coming down that back straightaway. These Toro Modifieds aren't very fast, but they can hold that speed throughout the corner insanely well. These things are pretty much only designed to be turning left.
Yeah, these things, if you've ever tried to make them turn right, they really don't like it. The way the car is set up, they're made to just go left. So these guys are pushing it hard right now. You can hear the tires squealing, and this is 80 laps, which is a decently long time for a modified. So these guys are just burning up that rubber right now. Eventually, I believe they will have to come down if I'm correct. I don't know if they can make it on fuel. I may be wrong there, but they're pushing these things really hard right now.
We'll have to see how the pit strategy comes in, but a little bit of a history on these Toro Modifieds here in NASCAR, one of the oldest divisions of NASCAR racing. Back in the early days, it was the Modified division and the Strictly Stock division, later named the Grand National division, and the Modified division was always the division that had more relaxed rules and drivers could basically race what they could afford. In the 90s, the rules started to get a little bit more strict as the 12 car of Jason Hand. So round to the back straightaway, get yellow flag. Our first caution of the night is out.
Yeah, I didn't see exactly what happened there. We'll get a nice replay here and see exactly what ends up happening.
James Gerald in the 92, the 99, they just touch going into turn number 3. Both of them end up in the wall. Wondering what happened to Jason Hand in the 12, as that was between Christopher Opgar and Ignacio Adames. So Hand to the inside of that 18 of Ignacio Adames. And they get into contact, and the 12 ends up in the grass on the back straightaway. So 2 wrecks happening very close together and almost at the same time here at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway to bring out our first caution of the evening in these modifieds. Now the real question is, Brian, do we expect anybody to dip down pit road this early?
I could possibly see it, but at the same point, we haven't gone too far. I don't know if they have tire limits or anything. That could really affect it also. So we do see most of them end up staying out. It is fairly early right now, so maybe just waiting to a later time possibly. We'll just have to see what they end up doing, but maybe they could make it on fuel. I'm not quite sure.
The 32 of Brent Allen coming down pit road for his first stop of the night. And you're on board at the 99 of Christopher Opgar, involved in one of the 2 incidents that led to bringing out this caution. And Brian, it was just really nothing he could do there. Just a car getting into the back of him and turning him into turn number 3.
Yeah, and that happens. And going to the wreck with the 12 there, it looked like there was a little bit of pinching that happened on exit is what ended up just really causing that one. Just a racing incident. The 12 probably expected the other car to go a little bit high, and so they just ended up colliding off of that. So just a lot of racing incidents happening right now. Nothing that's too crazy and unexpected.
3 cars came down pit road during that caution. It was Christopher Opgar, Jason Hand, and Brent Allen. You're looking at Jason Hand right now involved in one of the 2 accidents that brought out this caution. Contact with that 18 sent him right down into the grass. The only driver that pitted that was not involved in an incident was the 32 of Brent Allen, who currently is scored in the 24th spot, lost 10 spots when pitting under that caution. As lights are still on the iRacing.com pace car, field still pacing behind it, as we will be waiting to go back to racing Shane Posey in the 10, now coming down pit road.
Yeah, we'll have to see how the tires play out here and those that pitted for tires that weren't involved in incidents. See if maybe they drive back up the field quickly. That'll really show how the tire wear is. Most of the time, I believe that these tires don't wear too badly as the race goes on. They're made to really be pushed to the edge because of how much grip that they normally have. It's the same thing you'll see with like a super late model where you can drive these things incredibly hard for a very long amount of time. So we'll have to see what happens here with and see if that tire wear is extensional or not.
Field going back to 2x2 behind the iRacing.com pace car. As the lights are out, we will have one lap to go before we head back to racing here at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. In this 80-lap feature race, we had heats before this. We didn't see a lot of passing. We've seen a little bit of passing start here tonight, but a lot of it early on tonight is single file in the middle of the racetrack. But as this race progresses, we'll see these drivers get a little bit more aggressive, looking for any possible position they can. And just a reminder, this is just the season opener of the East Coast Thunder eSports. We'll be moving on to more tracks in this 10-round series. Next week, we'll be at New Smyrna, a much smaller track, much more banking there as well. And this is just a preview of what to see in the rest of this season. As that Ford Mustang pace car comes down pit road, the 15 leads us right back to the green flag.
Yeah, and it looked like Trevor got a good jump there, but wasn't actually able to hang on the side. And we saw the 22 of Eddie McCarthy. He's now making a move there for second. That's really tight right there. But he was actually pushing Kenny Zeems. And, a big moment for the 6 of William Kruska.
Kruska getting into the wall. He is also the race director tonight. We just heard on the voice chat he was trying to clear somebody's black flag. So he got himself into the wall there, now falling victim to the 14 of Casey Hatch, looking for that pass on the inside. As they'll come across the line on the lap number 16, that 14 looking for the spot as we jump right back to your leader, Kenny Zeems in the 15. The 54 with Trevor Catalano and around on the front straightaway. Christopher Upgar in the 99, and the caution is back out.
That's a weird spot for a wreck. Maybe someone was going, or maybe it was on exit, but we'll see exactly what ends up happening here. Oh, and it just looks like contact was made. Looked like someone just moved up from the site. It's a weird spot for a crash to happen. We'll get another look at it here. Yeah, I think maybe he expected the 32 to be out closer to the wall and pulled up to try to maybe side draft. I'm not quite sure there, but he definitely ended up coming up on the 32 there.
On board with Christopher Opgar in the 99. It definitely just kind of looked like a racing incident. Both of them just kind of got into each other. Wrong place, wrong time. As we hop back live now, field back behind the iRacing.com pace car. 3 drivers involved in that incident. Here comes a couple more coming down pit road. No, the fake from the 15 and the 54. But we do see a couple guys coming down. That's Bobby Sant Jr. in the 131 heading to his pit crew on pit road.
I think the top 3 guys are going to go off of each other. I don't think Trevor is going to come down unless Kenny does. And I think Eddie is going to follow the front too. They're kind of ahead of the field. We've seen them pull away on restarts. So I think right now they're just going to stay on the same strategy, not get too far off, because if you go off of strategy, you could end up on the short end of the stick and be behind the 8 ball then. So I think they're just going to follow one another and try to stick with each other.
Bobby Sant Jr. coming out of pit road, lost 15 spots while pitting under that caution, now scored an 18th. As Kenny Zeems in the 15, still your leader. Trevor Catalano in second, Eddie McCarthy in third, Chris Downing in fourth, and Tyler Catalano rounding out your top 5, with Ken Zeems, Austin McCurdy, Matthew Lambert, Russell Peets, and William Kruska rounding out your top 10 currently on the racetrack. You are watching the East Coast Thunder eSports Tour Modified Series from the New Hampshire Motor Speedway here on iRacing.com. And you're watching it live here on Apex Racing TV. The field going back to 2x2, and it looks like those lights are out on that iRacing.com pace car. No, they're not. We still have 2 laps of pacing to go before we head back to green flag racing here in this 80-lap feature race. About a fourth of the way through it here tonight. A lot of racing starting to happen. Some drivers getting a little less patient now as we're on lap number 19 of tonight's race.
I actually just saw and heard some contact there under caution, which is interesting. I wasn't sure exactly which car it was, but there was definitely some contact made, which is never good to have any contact under caution.
And these modifieds act a lot like an Indy car or an F1 car, where those tires don't really have fenders around them. So if they get into a little bit of contact, that is going to send you around a lot quicker than it would if there's a little bit of body work in between the tires. So these cars almost acting like an Indy car or an F1 car where they're open-wheeled. And really the only thing protecting those wheels is the roll bars on the outside of the cars in between them and the body. So contact is very easy to lead into wrecks. But the field 2x2 here at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Once again, we're getting ready to go back to racing on to lap number 21. Exactly 1/4 of the way through tonight's feature race. We will have 60 laps remaining. Kenny Zeems on the inside line, row number 1. He'll lead the field back to green flag. Trevor Catalano on the outside of the front row. You're on board with the 54 Kenny Zeems as we go back to racing.
Yeah, and Trevor got a much better start there, but he wasn't able to make anything of it. And of course, the 22 of Eddie McCarthy is again to his inside. It continues to be seems to be a recurring instance here where Trevor will get a decent restart, but Kenny gets a much better one, and then Eddie actually comes to his inside here. And so now they're side by side, but like we've seen, that outside just gets such a big run on exit.
At the 22 of Eddie McCarthy going to tuck right back in behind the 54 of Trevor Catalano. Catalano now going to look to Kenny Zeems, possibly trying to get the lead away. But that 54 not exactly out of the woods from that 22 yet, as they are still nose to tail. And the 18 is off and into the grass on the back straightaway. No caution is out. That is Ignacio Adames. He's back onto the racetrack, back up to speed. No caution as we're side by side, the 64 and the 75 battling for that 8th spot. They're actually battling for the 5th spot. The 75 of Austin McCurdy has that 5th spot. The 64 of Tyler Collado wants it, but here comes the 51 of Chris Downing to the inside of the 54 as Eddie McCarthy was able to get that 2nd spot away, and we are back under caution for the 10 of Shane Posey.
Yeah, and as we saw there, like you mentioned, Eddie and Chris were able to get around Trevor, so big action there. As we'll see what happens to the 10 here. It looks like he just lost it on his own, maybe locked it up, maybe slowing down, and I saw a lot of tire smoke there, which is interesting because you typically don't want to brake as much right there. You may tap them, but he just got loose, it looks like, and maybe tried to slow it down and just ended up spinning it.
It is also possible that he possibly could have just gotten loose in the middle with multiple cars around him, known as aero loose, where cars are around you influencing the air around you, and the car just gets out from under you. As we are on this 3rd caution, lap number 24 of 80 tonight. 3rd caution is out, and the 15 going to actually dive down into pit road for the first time tonight. Kenny Zeems is going to forfeit that lead as Eddie McCarthy and Chris Downing stay out. But in pit road, it's Kenny Zeems, Trevor Catalano, Ken Zeems, Tyler Catalano, Russell Peets, and Don Adam Seeks, all coming down pit road for the first time tonight.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Coming out of the lead, and we saw the others stay out, or we saw Eddie and Chris stay out. The 54 of Trevor followed the 15 in, This is maybe, like I said, we knew Trevor was following what Kenny did, and that did prove to be true right there. But Eddie staying out is an interesting one. Maybe he's expecting another caution late, or maybe he's planning to try to run this thing the whole way. We're not quite sure. We don't know exactly what the fuel situation is, but these guys are all working together as and kind of seeing what's happening. Is there are some teams happening, and maybe it was team orders to come down and pit there.
That is very possible, as this is a league. There are teams in this league and a lot of drivers that we'll be seeing week to week, and we'll get to know a lot of them as we continue the series here on Apex Racing TV. Like we said earlier, under the third caution of the night, a couple cars came down pit road for the first time. Cars that have not yet pitted are the 22 of Eddie McCarthy, the 51 of Chris Downing, 75 of Austin McCurdy, the 6 of William Kruska, the 48 of Matthew Lambert, the 7 of Patrick Hosier, the 97 of Chad Garlisi Jr., the 8 of Hunter Izaik has not yet come down pit road, and that last car that has not come down pit road yet is the 18 of Ignacio Adames. Those are all the cars that have not yet brought it down pit road to their pit crews, but they will need to pit at least once tonight, and a couple cars getting their pit stops out of the way early, possibly being good to the end on both tires and fuel. As we're taking a look at the 54 of Trevor Catalano, and it looks like he might have gotten an end-of-the-line penalty. We'll see if we can get a little bit of confirmation on that one. Doesn't look like it. Possible he might have sped coming down pit road, as he is now all the way at the back of this pack. Trevor Catalano scored in the 20th position, and that is the end of the cars on the track, I believe. As no, there are a couple cars behind him, but also a couple cars down pit road. We're taking a look at that replay of the 54. Is it possible he sped right there, Brian?
It might be possible. Another thing that I've actually sometimes seen, there can be a glitch at some of these tracks especially on the oval side, where if you were too low coming out of pit road, actually, it gives you a penalty. So it could have possibly been that. I'm not sure. I'm sure it would have got cleared if it was that, but that could have been a possibility. But that is a big hurt on him, because he came in behind the 15 of Kenny Zeems, and Kenny is all the way up in 15th, where Trevor is now back in the 20th position. So that just shows how much that penalty really hurt him.
He is scored in the 20th position as the field goes back 2 by 2. The 22 and the 51, Eddie McCarthy and Chris Downing, respectively, will be leading us back to the green flag. The 75 of Austin McCurdy in third. In fourth is the 6 of William Kruska, and the 48 of Matthew Lambert will round out your top 5 here at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway, all behind that Ford Mustang iRacing.com pace car, getting ready to go back to racing here at this famed 1 mile oval known as the Magic Mile. With 28 laps completed of 80 here in the feature race. And we're closing in on 50 laps to go, and just like that, we'll be closing in on halfway left in this race, as the field is back 2 by 2, and they'll be going right back to racing here at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. We're back green.
A little bit of a different restart there. The 75 might challenge the 22 here into the turn. Maybe not. Oh, big contact there. The 22 is able to hold it, though. He got touched in the left rear by the 51 of Chris Downing. And they are 3 wide now going into turn 3.
3 wide for some contact. The 22 and the 51 both get into each other. 75 on the apron. He's going to get by, but we're still 3 wide, still wrecking as the 97 goes into the wall on the inside, and that is caution out, and that is a lot less cars than I was expecting to be involved in a wreck there, Brian.
Yeah, that wreck started from the front, and with the whole field behind them, that was just a disaster waiting to happen. You could kind of see it happening. It was actually not even from the front incident. it was a back incident there of the 97 just getting tagged and turned. But the front incident that we saw, these guys are pushing it on these restarts, and it's making things become a little bit dangerous actually, because we saw William Cruz get tagged after the front guys had their incident. So these guys are pushing hard, but it might actually end up hurting them if they turn each other, which we almost saw.
And here's that replay on your screen right now of that restart. The 51 just getting a little bit of a tag on that 22. And here's that 3 wide for first. Some contact between the 51 and the 75. And right here, the 51 just tried to close the door. But the 75 said, no, thank you, I'm right here. And the 6 of William Cruz getting a little bit of contact. And here they are 3 wide. That's the 31 just tagging that 97. And I think if they would have went back into turn number 1 at full speed, we might have saw a wreck down there. It was a very close racing. 3 and 4 wide coming down that front straightaway. If that's any sign of what's to come in this race, Brian, I am looking forward to the last 50 laps.
Yeah, the biggest thing is...
Oh, the 22's wrecked.
I'm not sure. We'll have to get a replay on that, but that's the leader who was turned right there. So we'll have to see exactly what ended up happening.
What on earth just happened? The 22... Oh my! It looks like the 75 tried to the outside of the 22, and the 10 of Shane Posey, who is our lucky dog, getting his lap back, I think that just startled him, and he moved right back down into the 22.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. He went to pull up beside him, and then all of a sudden there was the lucky dog, and he hurried up and pulled it right back down and ended up turning the 22. We don't know if there's any damage to that car. It wasn't a hard hit, and I don't think anything else touched him. He does get the lead back, it looks like. The iRacing will allow him to get that position back. But if there's any damage to that car, it could affect the handling.
I have seen some wild stuff under cautions, but I don't think I've ever seen that. So the 22 will keep the lead, thank goodness. In iRacing, if you fall off of pace for just a couple seconds, it will let you get that spot back. So the 22 will keep the lead. Eddie McCarthy with Austin McCurdy in the 75 right behind. Your biggest mover of tonight is the 18 of Ignacio Adames, up 13 spots since when he began this race. The 18 doing a great job tonight, marching his way up through the field. We've seen him get wrecked, fall all the way to the back, and now he has scored in the 11th spot. So the driver from New York up 13 spots tonight. A great race from him shaping up as we're on lap number 33 of 80 under caution, our 4th caution of the night here at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway in the East Coast Thunder eSports Tour Modified Series, live here on Apex Racing TV. We hope you'll join us in 1 week time at the New Smyrna Motor Speedway as we go racing once again in this series. And you'll be seeing the same faces, same names, but a new track and some new racing, as this is only going to get more exciting from here, as I believe they're going to take 1 to go, and the lights on the iRacing.com pace car are going to turn off, and we'll be going right back to racing.
Another thing is we had those leaders that pitted with Kenny Zeems and Trevor Catalano. They're back in the field right now. If we keep having these quick yellows like we've had, they're not really going to be able to make their way up through the field. They really need this thing to go green so that they can make up some of those positions. Trevor's all the way back in the 16th position, it looks like, with Kenny Zeems back in 14th. So these guys are going to really, really want to see this thing go green, or else they may get stuck in the pack.
Well, 75 of Austin McCurdy on the inside, the 22 of Eddie McCarthy electing the outside line here. That's not normally allowed here in iRacing, but in leagues, league director can pretty much do whatever they want. And they allowed that 22 of Eddie McCarthy to get a spot up on the outside line. Brian, do you think that'll help him much on this restart?
I do, because we've seen the outside be the faster lane here as the pace car pulls in. And a big start there from the 22. That's exactly what he wanted. He's now in the preferred lane. He didn't have to jump up there to do it. and he's going to be able to have a big run off the corner, even though the 75 had a better entry, because you shoot the entry more on the inside, where as we saw the outside, he's just able to pull away.
Top 5 now single file as the 131 machine of Bobby Sand Jr. looking to the inside of the 51 for the 4th spot. Sorry, that's for the 3rd spot. The 131 right up beside that 51. Maybe a little bit of contact, but coming onto the front straightaway on to lap number 36. That 51 is going to keep that 3rd spot from that 131 of Bobby Sant Jr. As we take a look a little bit further back, some more slicing and dicing as we have a wreck in the back. Chad Carlisi Jr. and the 97 involved. The 191 of Russell Pete's also involved in a wreck in turn number 1. 5th caution of the night is out.
Yeah, we'll have to see the replay here as we have it on exactly what happened. It just looked like the 97 just tagged the 191. It was just a racing deal. Maybe the 191 had to slow up a bit for the car in front, it seemed like, and he just ended up getting tagged there. So just another racing deal, which happens when you're racing at tracks like this in these cars, is that you're so close that one little checkup can cause an incident to happen like we just saw.
Just went on board with Russell Pete's in the 191 through that wreck. And Eddie McCarthy continuing to hold that lead in the 22. Not much changing up at the top of the leaderboard from that last restart to now. As we're back under caution, 5th caution of the night. Lap number 37 of 80, nearing halfway through this race. Brian, we saw a lot of calm racing during the heats. Now that we're in the feature race, everybody getting a little bit more brave, everybody going for some more moves. Do you think this is going to get a little bit more exciting towards the end of the race, or do you think everybody's going to calm down for a little bit and we're going to kind of see a resurgence of this racing with around 10 to go?
I think that this is a good chances that this continues. I think everyone's just pushing so hard to make positions right now that it's just leading to some of these incidents. But these cars are made to push, and it's so hard to get that kind of settle in mentality. And a lot of these guys, some of these guys really want this thing to go green, but their fellow drivers aren't really helping them in this instant. Like we mentioned, a couple of those guys that pitted from the lead are still mirrored back in the field right now, just trying to find a way through, and without some green flag laps, they're not going to get that opportunity.
The top cars that have already pitted are Bobby Sant Jr. and Casey Hatch. Both of them came in on lap 17. Another car that came in on lap 17 is Hunter Izaik. They're in between. Sorry, Jody Reinhardt came in on lap number 17. They're within that top 11, and everybody else except for those 3 all have not pitted yet tonight. And the top driver from the group that pitted on lap 24, that was the group of leaders that we keep bringing up, is Tyler Catalano in the 64, currently sitting in 12th. So a lot of those drivers that pitted on lap 24 are set back in the pack, and they're just trying to inch their way forward. But right now, all at the front, majority of these drivers are drivers that have not pitted yet, but we're seeing a resurgence from the 131 and the 14. They're getting racy up here at the front. They have fresher tires than everybody else up here in the top 10, so we could see them making some moves here soon, as nobody else coming down pit road under this caution. And I believe we're going to get either 1 to go or 2 to go this time by, as the field continues to pace behind the iRacing pace car before we go back to racing here at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. And
I'm expecting
across the line, and we have still 2 to go. Lights still on the pace car.
I'm expecting to see more of what we've kind of seen on this restart, where the 22 most likely will choose the outside like he did last time, and he'll just get that really big jump most likely, or try to. And even if he doesn't really, as long as the 75 gives that space that's needed, doesn't make contact, he'll most likely end up clearing the 75 off of turn 2. That's just typically how it ends up happening, because there's just such a big run on that outside that it's hard for the inside to keep up without wrecking the guy on the outside. So I just tend to see that if you are in the pole position here in the first position, it's very hard to get past on a restart. And so if there's just these quick yellows like we've been seeing, I could see Eddie McCarthy being in a great position right now to just walk away with this thing.
But it is possible we could still see a lot of cautions. It is possible we could go green to the end. Who knows what will happen as the field gets double filed back up. Eddie McCarthy will elect to take the outside line once again on this restart. And one driver, I gotta say, Brian, that I'm gonna be watching on this restart is that 131 of Bobby Sand Jr. He has the freshest tires out of anybody up here in the front, along with that 14 of Casey Hatch. And I think he's in a good spot to possibly get to the outside of the 75 heading into turn number 1 and make a run for the lead coming down that back straightaway and into turn number 3 on this restart. As we are past halfway, lap 41, 40 laps to go. We'll be going green with 39 to go. 5 cautions tonight. We could see 5 more, we could see 10 more, we could see 0 more. It is all unpredictable, and you can only watch it right here on Apex Racing TV. Stick around for the last half of this race. Post-race, we'll have interviews with your winner and the rest of your top 5, and maybe a couple other select drivers, so make sure you stick around for that. But right now, we're going back to racing. The last half of the race is green, and the 22 of Eddie McCarthy out to a good lead. And the 131 looking at the outside, but he's going to get the door slammed on him by the 75 as everybody dives down to turn number 1. The 51 looking for third away from that 131, but powering on the outside is Bobby Sant Jr.
Yeah,
car on the wall in the back. I don't know who that is. I think that might have been James Gerald in the 92. Yes, it was. The 92 James Gerald in the wall. No caution. Battle for second up at the front. Bobby Sant Jr. looking to the inside.
Yeah, he wasn't able to quite get it there. He kind of pinched down his exit trying to get that run. The best way you're most likely going to get that run is just on the outside, just sticking to the outside of the car. As we see now, he's on the outside. And, oh, there's a car on the side and up and down.
Upside down, the 48's involved. More involved in the back. That's the 21 car of Don Adam Zeeks, and caution is back out. And that 21, a fast car, the 14 of Casey Hatch also involved back there. An unfortunate break for a couple of these drivers that were just caught up in that wreck in the back. The biggest wreck of the night. Let's take a look at this replay. Back to this replay, and it looks like the 14 just came up into the 48. Nothing really the 48 could do there. Let's see if we can get, here's the replay on board with the 48 of Matthew Lambert. I'm just wondering if he moved down. It looks like, Brian, that he moved down, the 14 moved up, and they just ran out of real estate.
Yeah, it's one of those things where on oval, you expect the guy really to track out to that wall. That's typically what you end up seeing happen. But in that case, I think the 14 was expecting exactly that, and they just ended up coming together there on exit. It's a common thing to happen if someone doesn't track out that could happen, just because in oval, you get so used to it that you just learn to do that. It's just what it becomes a habit to do that. But in that case, he didn't track out quite as much, and we ended up having that wreck.
Chris Downing, Matthew Lambert, Jody Reinhardt, Ignacio Adames, and a Christopher Opcar all making their way down pit road, a couple of them for the first time tonight. As we now have only 5 cars on the track that have not yet come down pit road. It is your leader, Eddie McCarthy, second place, Austin McCurdy, 4th place, William Kruska, 5th place, Patrick Huger, and 9th place, Hunter Zeik. They have all not yet come down pit road, but I'll tell you what, this was actually a good lap and a half for those drivers that pit on lap 24, because Tyler Catalano, Kenny Zeems, and Ken Zeems all pitted on lap 24. They are now 6th, 7th, and 8th. And Trevor Catalano also pitted on lap 24, right behind him in 10th place. So definitely a break for them. They were able to get some track position. And Brian, you were talking about it right before that restart. That track position is key tonight with all of these cautions that we've been seeing.
Yeah, we've seen that really the leader hasn't really got a chance to be passed other than really when you go down pit road because it's such a quick yellow that you have control on the restart on when you get to go. You have control of where you start on that outside and just being able to have that position, stick to the outside, just stay there and force the person basically to pass you on the inside. And it's just not going to happen. That pass on the inside isn't going to come just because of the runoff that you get. It's just such a big runoff. It pinches the guy on the inside down because they can't come up all the way and track out to the wall like we were talking about. So the having that track position and that control is everything right now.
The 22 of Eddie McCarthy continuing to lead the way. 2 laps to go under this caution. 6th caution we've seen tonight. Brian, are you expecting some more? Are you expecting these guys to finally calm down? I feel like during every caution, we're wondering if these guys are going to calm down, and they haven't done that yet.
I think it's push. You have a little over 20 laps left. They've been pushing from basically the beginning. I don't really see that changing. Most of the incidents we've seen are racing incidents. It's still a lot of these guys are still learning to race with each other. As I expect as the series goes on, these guys are kind of learn each other's habits. It's always nice when you're racing with the same guys because you eventually pick up on what they do, their habits, and you can kind of trust them a little bit more. This being the first race of the season, it's more or less you don't really have that chemistry driving with people, so you don't know exactly what they're going to do, what to expect from them. It's kind of like when you see an official racing where you hop in and it's just a bunch of different people where anything can happen at any moment because you don't know what that other person's going to do. So it's all reactive. But as the season goes on, I expect them to be able to kind of predict what's going to happen and we'll see things maybe being a little bit calmer.
This is the first race of this series, and we currently have 5 races on the schedule that we know of right now. 5 more expected to be added very shortly, with New Hampshire being tonight. Next week, July 9th, we'll be at the New Smyrna Beach Raceway down in Florida. Then July 16th, we'll be at Myrtle Beach. July 23rd, we'll be at the Southern National Raceway. And July 30th, we'll be at the Oxford Plains Speedway. And then last 5 races in the championship yet to be announced. We're still waiting on those. The field 2 by 2 getting ready to go back to racing here at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Eddie McCarthy choosing the outside line once again, and they're gone, but the 75 right side by side with him as they come across the start finish line. The 75 will hop into line as we have a battle for third between William Kruska and Bobby Sant Jr. Side by side through 1 and 2. Sant Jr. going to get that spot, but just by a hair as Kruska will power by on the outside.
Yeah, and we saw again there that even though the 75 got that great restart, he wasn't able really to do anything with it because that high line is just where you want to be right now. And diving to the inside, you're not just going to most likely not make that pass. You really have a chance of losing more positions because the guy behind you, if he's running that high side, is going to get such a big run. And these guys are just fighting it out right now. As we see Kenny Zeems here as we're on board with him running behind the 64 of Tyler Catalano. They're making up positions. This is what they wanted, that green flag run, and they're getting it here to be able to start making up those positions that are needed.
A little bit of contact there. Kenny Zeems right on that back bumper of Tyler Catalano. And he's going to look to the inside now, heading into turn number 1, side by side with that 64. Tyler Catalano on the outside, Kenny Zeems on the inside. A little bit of contact. But that 15 trying to take that spot away, and there's now side by side for the lead. Here comes that 75 of Austin McCurdy to the inside of Eddie McCarthy for the lead, as here comes William Kruska trying to make it a 3-man race as Kruska now going to battle the 75 for second.
Yeah, and that's like I said right there. The 75, he's down on that bottom. It's effectively just hanging him out to dry at this point because as long as the outside guys don't get loose.
Oh, the 6 car into the wall. Kruska around. And I think he tagged the 75 as well. The 51 involved. 3 cars wrecked on the back straightaway. Caution is out, lap 52.
Yeah, I saw that happening in the middle of the turn there. Kruska just got loose, it looked like, and from there on exit, he just kind of was trying to save it, and we see right there, he gets loose and just tracked out all the way out to the wall, and a big wreck happened from it, taking out the 75 and the 54 there, it looked like.
Tough break for the 6 to William Kruska, getting the most damage out of that. I believe that 75 lost him recruit. He kind of just got hit on the roll bar. He's probably going to be okay to keep racing. And he got tagged by that 131 who was reacting to the wrecking 6 car that was right in front of him. So definitely that 6 car started a chain reaction of other wrecks that happened around him. Let's see how this 51 got involved. The wreck's happening in front of him. Oh, he just didn't move down far enough. That 6 car just kept on coming down. And the 51 getting a little bit of damage. Chris Downing. And we have the leaders coming down pit road. Eddie McCarthy's in. Kenny Zeems in. Ken Zeems is in. Trevor Catalano is in. More coming down pit road. This is the first time that Eddie McCarthy has made his way down pit road all day. Now only 2 drivers remain on the track who haven't pitted. It's Patrick Hosier and Hender Azaik.
Yeah, and going back to that moving down, these cars, it's so hard to tell how far they're going to bounce off because you never really know. They could just sit there up against that wall, or they could bounce all the way down the track. It's a lot of times it's a pick one and just hope you chose correct, because you could go high and the person could just not bounce off at all, or they could go all the way down to the yellow and they'll shoot all the way down and take you out and put you into the grass.
Lap 54 of 80 tonight. Bobby Sant Jr. taking over the lead after Eddie McCarthy brought it down pit road. Now looking on our live timing, there are 2 cars remaining who have not pitted since lap 17, and that is Bobby Sant Jr. and Cullen Johnston. Second place, Tyler Catalano in the 64, last pit on lap 24. Third place, the 7 of Patrick Hosier, hasn't pitted at all tonight. With 26 to go, he still is on the same tires and the same fuel that he began tonight's race with. And Cullen Johnson sits in 4th. He's pitted on lap 17. And the newest tires up here at the front in the top 5 is the 48 of Matthew Lambert. He pitted on lap 44. So definitely a lot of interesting strategy happening up here at the front of the field. A lot of drivers on different strategies, on more worn tires, on better tires, have not yet pitted for fuel. So it's going to be interesting to see how this restart plays out with a lot of the guys that we have seen up front all night now are in the back of the field, Brian.
Yeah, and there's 25 laps to go. If we keep having these quick yellows like we've seen, then it's going to be difficult to make up that spots in the time that we have. So it really just comes down to, does it run green? Are they able to clear people effectively? And is there enough laps now for them to get back to the front?
2 laps to go. That last time by here in the caution. And that iRacing.com pace car will turn off its lights, I believe, next time by, and we'll be going back to green once again here tonight. These restarts have proven to be extremely vital in this race, as we have had a lot of cautions, which of course lead to a lot of restarts. And these restarts have been very important all night with how these guys race and are able to make up positions, because making up positions on restarts are extremely important, because that is pretty much the only opportunity they're going to get to make up those spots, as the field now comes across the start-finish line. Lights out on the iRacing.com pace car, and Bobby Sant Jr. doing the same thing the 22 of Eddie McCarthy did, choosing that outside line. That'll push Tyler Catalano to the inside in the 64. As we'll be going back to racing next time they come onto the front straightaway. Brian, do you think Bobby Sant Jr. taking that outside line is a good move? Because we saw it be successful with that 22.
I do. We've seen that the outside just gets such a big run. The inside, you lose positions if you're side by side in a turn. So I expect the 64 to actually try to get up as soon as possible.
Well, here we go. Looking to go back to racing. The 64 on the inside. Your leader is that 131 of Bobby Sant Jr. As the pace car pulls down, Sant Jr.'s away, so is the rest of the field. Back to racing here at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. The 64 going to lose a little bit of time to the 131 as they dive back into turn number 1. Bobby Sant Jr. is going to cover the spot and pull away a little bit as they come off 2.
Yeah, and like I said, the 64 was going to get up immediately as soon as it get...
wreck in the back!
Giant wreck in the back.
Multiple cars around. One car flipping. That's the 6 of William Kruska. As also involved is, I believe that's the 75 with more damage. Austin McCurdy involved in another wreck. And they went 4 wide there for a second, and that looks like... No, that was a completely different incident up ahead of them, with multiple cars involved there.
They are 4, almost 5 wide down there. That's just a recipe for disaster at that moment. You saw just another racing incident. These guys are so close quarters where just a little touch, and these cars like to go around. It's very easy to do so, and you see there's just nowhere to go for half of these cars.
And I think we're seeing this sort of mentality from these drivers now, that they know that there's going to be a lot of restarts at the end of this race, and that they're going to need to make up as many positions on restarts as they possibly can. And I think that is what is breeding these cautions. You've heard the saying, cautions breed cautions, and this is exactly why, with a lot of drivers being aggressive on restarts, because that could be the only opportunity they have to make any passes and make up track position. As we are now 3/4 of the way done with this race almost, with 21 laps to go. The time is just winding down, and the only green flag laps are these restarts.
Yeah, right now, I gotta say, with Bobby Sant Jr. being out in that lead, he doesn't have to pit. As long as he doesn't get turned, I think this might be his race to lose at this point. He just being able to start on that outside, get that big run. You can't make a pass on the inside. That's been shown multiple times now. So I think if you are the leader, you stay on that outside and you just run, and the race is practically yours.
20 laps to go. We are under caution once again here at the virtual New Hampshire Motor Speedway. You are watching the East Coast Thunder eSports Tour Modified Series here from New Hampshire Motor Speedway on Apex Racing TV. And we hope you'll stick around for a post-race show, and hope you'll stick around week after week here in the East Coast Thunder eSports. This 10-week series just kicking off here tonight. This is the first taste you're getting of all the racing action that is still yet to come this season. So make sure that you're sticking around week after week and watching this race develop. Now, Brian, I got to ask you, 2 drivers still remain on the track that have not yet pitted. That is Patrick Hosier and Hunter Zeich. Do you think that is a smart strategy, or do you think that they kind of missed the ball when it came to pitting earlier in this race?
Well, as long as they can hold it and they aren't involved in the cautions that are happening, I think it might be pretty smart for them. It's too late to pit now. They maybe could have pitted earlier and made up some positions, but not pitting, they're able to gain that track position we talked about. And if they just get to the outside and just run, like it becomes so hard. I keep mentioning it, and I know I sound like a broken record, but that outside, just you can't make the pass on the inside. So for any of these guys, if they're just on that outside, they're not involved in the caution, and you're good to go.
Field still pacing behind the iRacing pace car, and there is the 22 of Eddie McCarthy. The dominant car at the beginning of this race, pitted, is now in the back, and he is now on the very tail end of this field. Brian, do you think he even has a chance to catch back up to the lead, or do you think Eddie McCarthy is just looking at his win chances disappear in the crowd?
I do believe that we will at least have one more caution, if not more. So I think the biggest thing he can do is run, gain as many positions as you can, and then try to just avoid the wreck when it happens. Because we see Trevor Catalano back there also, who was up towards the lead at the beginning of this race. So it's just one of those things where he has to just be patient, don't take anyone out, but avoid the wreck when it happens and just try to make up those spots.
And the field will go back to 2x2, 18 laps remaining here in the East Coast Thunder eSports at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. The 131 choosing the outside line once again with the 64 on the inside. Matthew Lambert will be in the 4th spot. He is 2nd row outside line with Cullen Johnston on the inside line in row number 2 in that 84. And the 7 of Patrick Hosier rounds out your top 5. As they'll come through turns 3 and 4, the iRacing.com pace car will come down pit road. And we will go right on back to racing here at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Pace car back into the safety of pit road, and we are right back green. Patrick Sant Jr. will lead them into turn number 1. He is going to clear Tyler Catalano on the inside line. Matthew Lambert now in a fight for 2nd.
Oh, and a caution out, and it sounds like a big wreck back behind, possibly. We almost saw the 48 there clear the 64, and the 48 is actually on newer tires also. As we see, it looks like the 8 involved, and I couldn't catch who else that was. We'll have to get a replay of the
looks like the
incident.
51. Looks like the 51 car. Let's see what happened here with the 8. Starting in the 8th spot on the outside line. Remember, Hunter Zyke has not yet come down pit road for tires. And he got into contact with the 18, possibly looking for a hole that just wasn't there. And the 31, I'm not sure exactly what happened with him, but it looks like he just turned immediately right into these drivers. And the base car comes right back out of pit road as the caution comes back out. What happened with the 31 here?
It looked like the 8 got pinched into the wall like we saw, and then the 51 was coming up on the 8 really quickly. He tried to move to the inside of the 8 to avoid hitting him, but the 31 was already there, and he just ended up getting turned for an incident that he wasn't even involved in.
Let's see if we can get an onboard with that 51. Because I think that is going to really tell the story. Because I think the 51 just kind of got pinched in the middle there during that wreck. And thank you, Marco, for that onboard with the 51. There's the 8. He moves down, and the 31 just kind of is there. But it was avoiding a wreck that led to another wreck from that 51 machine. Not really anybody's fault. He was just reacting to the slow 8 in front of him because the 31 happened to be right under him.
Yeah,
Look at this
just
slow-mo replay now.
It just, again, it's a racing deal. He was trying to just not run into the back of the 8. Maybe didn't even know the 31 was down there. It's just such a quick moment that happens. Just it's so fast that you just pull down because it's instinct. You see a guy in the wall, you try to slow up and pull down to make sure you don't hit him, but the 31 was just happened to be there. So nothing really that anyone probably could have done differently other than just slam on the brakes, which could have led to an even bigger wreck if someone ran into the back of you. So it's just wrong place, wrong time at that incident.
14 laps still remaining here. I believe when we go back to racing, we'll have 12 to go. And this race just winding down ever so quickly, and it seems like with every caution, there goes a couple of laps. We have a restart, and then here comes another caution. More laps go down. So this race ending very quickly here as time is running out for all these drivers, and they are going to need to just keep on doing what they've been doing on these restarts, just trying to get any possible positions that they can.
Yeah, another thing here is that the 48 like I mentioned, he's on fresher tires. They're actually 20 plus laps with the Tyler Catalano in the 64 in second. He pitted on lap 24, whereas Bobby Sant Jr. pitted on lap 17. And Matthew Lambert pitted on lap 44. So he's got fresher tires. So we'll have to see exactly what he can do here, if he can actually put those things to use, or if it actually matters at all. So it's going to give us a good showing on what these tire wear does.
So Matthew Lambert has some of the freshest tires up here at the front. Bobby Sant Jr., a leader, last pitted on lap 17. Here's another replay of that incident that led to the caution we are currently in. And the 8 of Hunter Azaik got up into the wall, had to slow down because he was in the wall, tried to get back up to speed, but the rest of the cars reacting behind him led to him being turned into the wall. Just one of those deals, it's like we say, just a chain reaction wreck where one thing happens, that leads to another, that leads to another, that leads to another. And we are now back side by side, 2 by 2, behind the iRacing.com pace car, getting ready to go back to racing with the 131 of Bobby Sant Jr. choosing the outside line once again. On the inside, Tyler Catalano in the 64.
I'm expecting Bobby Sant to just, again, try to just get that big restart here. It's really going to come down to the guys behind, and if they can get that big restart to get to the outside of the 64 or not, because we saw the 64 wanted to move up immediately last time.
It's also going to come down to how good of a restart that 64 gets. Can he get a good restart on the inside and get that lead away from Bobby Sant Jr.? And what will happen with the 48 of Matthew Johnston? He has the freshest tires up here in the top 3. What is going to happen is we're back to racing here at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Bobby Sant Jr. pulls away. The 3 wide for third. The 48 going to cover the spot from the 7. And the 48 will take third. Battle for the lead now, but they're wrecking in the back. The 75 around. 97 also involved. We are right back under the yellow flag with 11 laps to go.
Yeah, and that's just, it's just making of what the racing has become. They're just, it's go time now especially, but it's been go from the beginning for these guys. They are just pushing it as hard as they can. It's just making things, these cautions come out. Guys are driving really aggressive, and it's showing in the amount of cautions we've had. But some of these guys are making up positions doing it because they're just avoiding everything. And so it's really, they're using these to their advantage.
Yeah, and I think another reason that these cautions are really coming out is here at New Hampshire, this is really only a 3-groove racetrack, and those grooves are right there in the middle. You can see the dash lines. Just those 3 middle grooves are where these cars react best and where they are fastest. If you're too low or too high, your car's going to react badly, but those lanes are so tight, you can't really fit 3 wide there unless everybody can hold a line straighter than a pencil. So it is very difficult to run 3 wide. Here's really only a 2 wide racetrack, and even then, you're still fighting for real estate. You're still very close together. And I think that's another reason we've been seeing so many cautions here, Brian, is that they kind of just run out of real estate out here on this track.
Yeah, and I definitely sound like a broken record the amount of times I've mentioned that high line tonight. You can probably have a counter just on that, but it's true. This track just, it sets itself up to be that. It's kind of like Bristol in a way. When you think of Bristol now, it's that high lane is all you want. We talk about NASCAR and how they're doing the choice cone now for the All-Star race, kind of showing that some of these tracks just, that high line is the only groove, and that's definitely true about New Hampshire here, because we've seen guys go to the low lane and they just end up losing positions after trying to gain one. So really, guys are just all fighting for those little area right in the middle.
I'm still waiting for iRacing to introduce the PJ1, where we have multiple crews and everybody fighting for that PJ1 once it warms up. But right now, pretty much the equivalent to that PJ1, specifically here at New Hampshire, is that middle groove. A lot of grip, it's kind of almost the perfect banking for these modifieds. Not too high, not too low. They can rotate really well. And with 8 laps to go, I believe they just got the 2 to go last time by. So we'll be going back to racing with 6 to go. And I am not sure how many green-white checkered attempts we have, if we have any. So this could end up ending under caution. We could be going into overtime. We'll have to see exactly what happens. But they could be done wrecking. It's entirely possible they are. When we go back to racing, we will have 6 laps to go, and we'll see exactly what is going to happen as the field will get right back double file behind the iRacing.com Ford Mustang pace car.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly how many green-white checkers they have, if they have any. That's something we'll have to get confirmed before the next race. So we'll find out as it goes here. But hopefully this thing can run green from here. We can see guys try to make positions. I know a couple of those guys sitting on that second row are chomping at the bit to try to get to that leader. And even some guys a little bit further back than that. Some big names, though, aren't up at the front that we normally see. Like Kenny Zeems is still sitting back in 6th. Trevor Catalano is back in 8th. And Ken Zeems back in 13th. So those guys are back there. Chris Downing, who was up front, is in 10th. So a lot of the guys that we saw running up front at the beginning of this race are just spread throughout the field right now. They just haven't had that chance to really climb back up there.
Well, here we go. And it looks like the caution getting extended just a little bit by 1 lap. So the green will be delayed. We'll be going back green with 5 laps to go now here at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. You are watching the East Coast Thunder eSports here on Apex Racing TV. Week number 1 of this 10-race series. We've been saying it all night. Make sure you join us. Next week, we'll be at New Smyrna Beach. We'll have a new track each and every week in the fight for the championship here in the East Coast Thunder eSports Tour Modified Series. And this is just the beginning of the action. The field 2 by 2. Time running out, and each of these drivers know that. So it is going to be all hands on deck, and they're about to be let loose for the final 5 laps. Will they wreck? Will they go green to the end? Will we see an upset winner? Will we see Bobby Sant Jr. run away with the lead? Only time will tell. The field coming through turn 4. The iRacing.com pace car pulling back into the safety of pit road. The 64 getting a little bit of a jump, but there goes the 131 right back to the lead. 5 laps to go.
They are pushing each other going into turn 1 there. The 15 was just shoving the 84 there, and so I'm not sure how that worked out. As we are 3 wide on the exit, and we got, I don't know if he tagged the wall. He got close, and the 7's going around.
The 54 around, the 18 in the air. And with 5 to go, we're back under the yellow flag. Another huge wreck on the back straightaway. Bobby Sant Jr. continues to lead. And I'm not sure if we're going to be extending this race into overtime. We'll have to get confirmation. Here's the wreck. Nowhere for the 18 to go. He got sent up into the air. We'll see exactly what sparked that wreck. And we'll also see if we're going to be going into overtime or if this race is going to be ended under caution here tonight.
Yeah, the biggest thing I saw there was the 7 actually saved it originally, which I thought was pretty amazing after how sideways he was, but sadly he ended up getting tagged later on, and it ended up just kind of not turning out the way he wanted. It was just a big move there. It looked like from the 54. It was a reactionary move. He had a run. He shot to the outside and just ended up turning the 18 at that moment.
Couple cars coming into pit road, which leads me to believe that we will be extending this race into overtime. The green-white checkered, and there's the 18 going right up into the air on that wreck. We've seen some wild wrecks tonight. That might have just taken the cake for the wildest one we've seen here tonight, as Bobby Sant Jr. continues to lead the way. 3 laps to go on our lap counter, but not exactly sure how many laps we exactly have left to go. We'll try and get confirmation for that. But Brian, we've seen a lot of exciting action here tonight, and I don't think it's ended just yet.
No, they're double file as if we're going back to green. So I'm expecting us to either have a possible natural green white checkered here, or at least one green white checkered from the looks of it. And it's looking more and more like it's Bobby Sant Jr.'s race to lose right now, because we've seen multiple times on these restarts of him just on that outside, just clearing them, especially on the exit of two. So unless he gets tagged in any way, it's looking more and more like it's just going to be his race to get a good restart, get out in front, and then take whatever flag ends up ending this race.
And we just got confirmation from our producer and as well from the sim that we will have 3 attempts at a green-white checkered tonight. This race getting extended into overtime. If you have never seen NASCAR overtime, it is a green-white checkered finish. We'll be going green with 2 laps to go. The next flag that comes out will be the white flag, and then after that, the next flag will end the race. We could get another caution, and then we'll rack them up again, and we'll do a green-white checker, and we'll keep doing this for 3 attempts. And after that, that'll be the end of the attempts, and we'll have a race official. But once they take that white flag, no matter what flag waves next, it will end the race. So we'll see what'll happen. Attempt number 1 of a green-white checkered here tonight. Brian, we've seen exciting restarts all night. This might be the crescendo. Do you think we're going to see another wreck, or do you think we'll live long enough to see the white flag?
I hope we live long enough to see that white flag, but I'm not exactly sure, because these guys are pushing, like I said, really hard. So we'll have to wait and see exactly what happens here. Oh, and it looks like we have some contact under caution. The 54 not happy with the 7, it looks like. I'm not actually sure why the 54 isn't happy with the 7. He might have to look at the replay after to see exactly what ended up happening for that last wreck. But yeah, some extracurricular activity under caution.
That might have been a little bit of payback from the move the 54 made to turn the 7 going to that caution. We'll see if our producer Marco Barbanera can get a replay, but if not, we'll look at it post-race and we'll see exactly what that drama led to, and we'll be bringing it to you next week when we go back live at New Smyrna Beach. And I think it might have been payback for that wreck there, but the 7 ended up saving it in the long run, so I'm not sure exactly how mad he was over that. And we'll see if that drama will carry over to next week, because the field is double file, lights out on the iRacing.com pace car, and you know what that means. We're going back to racing. 2 laps to go past the extended distance. We're on lap 81. We are in overtime, and we'll see if we're going to get another caution or if we'll be ending this race under green when the field takes the white flag. The 131, Bobby Sant Jr., leader on the outside, lagging back on this start, looking to get a good restart, and he does. The 64 side by side, looking for the lead. The freshest tires up here in the front is that 48 of Matthew Lambert. Will he have a run for the lead? The 15 of Kenny Zeems, the dominant car. He started on the pole. He's in third, looking for the lead as they come down the back straightaway. The 131 will take it into 3.
Yeah, and we saw that the 64 was able to pull up there. The 131 is just, again, that outside is so strong right now, but the 15 seems to try to be making it work on the bottom. He's not really going to be able to clear his teammate there, and it looks like he's going to try and get back up in front of the 48.
White flag, final lap here at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway, coming down the back straightaway for the final time. Bobby Sant Jr. loves to see the double file battle in his mirror, because that means he can focus on this turn and run away with it. Through turns 3 and 4 for the final time. The 64 made a final push for it, but he's not going to do it. The 131, Bobby Sant Jr. is going to take the win at New Hampshire.
And coming across second was Tyler Catalano, as we see more guys coming through finally. Matthew Lambert was in third with Kenny Zeems in fourth, and Chris Downing finishing out your top 5.
And it sounds like there's some drama between the 90 and another driver. That, I just heard a lot of screaming over the voice chat. I think the 90 at Ken Zeems was angry with somebody. I think it was with the 51 machine. Because they might... I believe... I wasn't sure exactly who it was. I only looked into the sim. And the 51 just turned into the 90 down the straightaway. I was one of the weirdest wrecks I think I might have seen coming to the finish there.
Yeah,
But nonetheless, that is the end of the race.
it looked like the 90 had a run on the backstretch and got blocked by the 51. And then, so there was contact made there. So then coming out of the turn, it looked like there might have been contact mid-turn also. So then coming out, the 51 just comes down and wrecks the 90.
And we heard a lot of screaming over the voice chat. I don't want to exactly use the quotes, but it was a lot of screaming over the voice chat. And there is definitely some drama that is going to carry over to New Smyrna Beach next week. And we hope you can join us here on Apex Racing TV for that. But now we have the results right here on your screen. Bobby Sant Jr. taking home the win over Tyler Catalano, finishing second. Matthew Lambert finishes third. Kenny Zeems finishes fourth. Chris Downing in fifth. Colin Johnston 6th, Casey Hatch in 7th, Russell Peets in 8th, Eddie McCarthy 9th, Ken Zeems will round out your top 10 with Chad Garlisi Jr. in 11th, Hunter Azaik in 12th, Trevor Catalano in 13th, Jody Reinhardt 14th, Ignacio Adames 15th, Shane Posey 16th, Austin McCurdy 17th, 18th was Don Adams-Zek, 19th was William Kruzka, 20th Brent Allen, 21st James Gerald, 22nd Christopher Opgar, 23rd Jason Hand, and rounding out your 24-car field was Patrick Hosier. And Brian, this was an exciting race all night long. It was a battle for track position on restarts. Looking forward to New Smyrna. Now, Bobby Sant Jr. holds that points lead. What is he looking forward to doing what does he need to do in New Smyrna Beach to keep that points lead? And what are you looking forward to when we go back to racing in a week's time?
I think the biggest thing that we've noticed is you just got to keep the car clean and out of trouble. A lot of the guys, I think, that didn't pit or pitted early was a fairly smart decision, because then you didn't have to pit later on and put yourself back at the back. You had more of a chance to kind of, if something went wrong, you had more time to make it up. And I think that's definitely the best decision. I think as things go on and progress through the season, we're going to see maybe some cleaner racing. Guys are going to kind of realize you got to calm down some to make it through the race, because if you're just constantly sending it in every turn, then you have a good chance of wrecking out. So I think guys are going to get used to one another a little bit more, get used to these cars, because like I said, these cars, some guys don't have a ton of experience in. So as they get used to it, I think we're going to be in for some great racing as the season progresses.
Well, we thank you for joining us for round number 1 of the East Coast Thunder Esports Tour Modified Series here for the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Join us in a week's time where we'll be live from the New Smyrna Beach Raceway down in New Smyrna Beach, Florida for round number 2 of this series. Congratulations to Bobby Sant Jr. in the 131 taking home tonight's win here at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. For Marco Barbanera, Brian Delp, I am Joshua Lee, and we thank you for joining us here tonight on Apex Racing TV, and we hope you can join us again for another race. So long from New Hampshire.